if you cycle a lot, then inevitably you're going to find yourself riding in bad weather at some point. And perhaps you've been training for a big event and that event falls on a bad weather day. Well, fear not. There are things that you can do to your bike in order to make it better suited to riding in bad weather. As cyclists, we're always looking for any excuse to put the N+1 rule into practice. And in the UK, it's common for cyclists to own more than one bike, and a winter bike will typically be less good in terms of the quality of the components and frame than your best day bike, and is usually steel or aluminium. However, not everyone wants to own more than one bike, and there are some great options such as this white Wessex, which are awesome all-rounders. So you've got really wide tyre clearance, which means you can put big fat tyres on for added grip and puncture resistance and more comfort, but still have space for mudguards. And you've got really wide gear ratio and disc brakes, which are obviously really good for bad weather and stopping. And then the bottom bracket is also a threaded bottom bracket instead of a press fit. And if you speak to any bike mechanic, they'll tell you how press fit bottom brackets do not like dirt, rain and grime. So that is a really good design feature. If you're in the market for a new bike or a bike that's dedicated to riding in bad weather or winter, then that's great, but many of you won't be and will just have a bike already that you want to adapt. So how do you best adapt your bike for bad weather? Well, the first thing to look at is tyres. Now, for riding in bad weather, we'd suggest tyres that are wider because this will give you a greater contact patch and more grip when the road is more slippery, and also you can get a certain amount more puncture protection as well. In wet weather and bad conditions, punctures are more common, so we'd recommend going for a tyre with greater puncture protection, such as a Continental Gatorskin. But it's important to be aware that tyres like the Gatorskin have less grip because the rubber compound's harder. But if you want more grip, you can spend more money and get a slightly more expensive tyre like a Continental GP4 Season, which has the same level of puncture protection, but with a more expensive rubber compound that offers more grip. However, there is another option, and that is tubeless tyres, such as found on this giant Content. So tubeless tyres offer a number of advantages. Firstly, the chances of getting punctures is much, much less. We've actually made videos on this, so you can check those out. We'll post links below. And not only is your puncture risk massively reduced, but also you can run lower pressures because the chance of getting a pinch flat is eradicated because you don't have an inner tube. And lower pressures means more grip and more comfort. And there's another advantage, which is that you typically get lower rolling resistance with a tubeless setup as well, meaning you can go faster. So it's win all round. The next thing we're going to talk about is lube. So dry lube offers lower friction than a wet lube and will typically save you around 2 to 5 watts in your drivetrain. However, if there's any moisture on the road or if it's raining slightly, then dry lubes can wash off really quickly, and all of a sudden your drivetrain sounds like World War II tank tracks. So the best thing to do is to use a wet lube, such as this Muck-Off ceramic wet lube. As soon as all your lube washes off, your drivetrain becomes a lot less efficient and you're wasting precious watts and potentially wearing out your chain and cassette faster as well. So a wet lube will stay stuck to your chain much more effectively in wet conditions and be more efficient. The next thing we're going to talk about is mudguards, or fenders if you speak American. Now, many bikes feature specific mounting points for mudguards, but if your bike doesn't, then don't worry, because there's loads of products out there on the market that simply clip on to any frame, such as these widget guards. Now, these also have a really cool feature in that they've got some really nice reflective coatings on bits of them as well, so that they're high vis. However, few issues light up the Cycling Weekly comments section more than mudguards. Some people don't like them, some people do like them. Personally, I think they're a great way to make friends on group rides and certainly make riding in wet and bad conditions more enjoyable. However, I think if you're racing, then it's acceptable not to put mudguards on, and it's generally accepted etiquette because there is an aerodynamic penalty to putting mudguards on your bike. The last thing I'm going to talk about is riding with lights in bad weather. Now, most cyclists associate riding with lights with riding at night, but also consider that in bad weather, there's much less visibility as well, so riding with lights is really sensible. Now, there's loads of great ones on the market, and I'm a big fan of this one, which is a Moon Nebula, because I've been using this for a couple of years now, and it's really robust. It's stood up to loads of abuse, and it's really bright, and it's just well made. Plus, it's got a good bracket on it, so it'll sort of fit onto awkward seat post shapes and stuff as well. So having a light like that will massively make you more visible to other road users and make you much safer, especially when it starts really chucking it down and getting dark and grey and miserable overhead. So they were our main tips for optimising your bike for riding in bad weather, but it's not an exhaustive list. So if you've got some suggestions of things that you do to your bike, then please share them in the comments section below, because other people will no doubt find it useful. So if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the Cycling Weekly channel for more videos.